Hey, good evening, everybody. We are 2 days late, but guess what? We are 2 days late because family matters.
Correct.
And there's no racing this past week professionally. Well, that's not true. There was professional racing.
Yeah.
There was no Feld, AMA, Supercross, SMX. There was a GNCC. There was some pro motos at the I4MX series. But as far as what we normally cover, our amateur stuff, we're going to dive in very lightly. But since we didn't have any Supercross this week, Derac and I on Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast today, we're going to tell you who the hell are we?
Yep.
And
how did we meet?
How did we meet?
How this came about?
Yeah. And why we look forward to, I mean, I'll be quite honest. We had some big things happening this week, but it was kind of a bummer that we couldn't get together on Monday night and do it.
Yeah, it was rough, but we did have a terrible week, and hopefully we'll get it all in tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have anything like this again, and we can move forward.
But this is real life.
Yeah.
This is real life.
Things happen.
Yep. So, happy Easter week to everybody. We've been through Palm Sunday. Tomorrow is Maundy, Thursday, Passover for those that celebrate the Easter holidays, and big celebration if you've never been to a Seder service. I would highly suggest going to a Seder service. It's the Passover style dinner from the Jewish perspective. The Christian perspective is an amazing thing. Not that we are political either way. I've been to them, and it is amazing what these people what they went through during that time period.
Yep.
So what we're going to talk about this week is we're going to touch real lightly. My nephew raced at the GNCC up in South Carolina this weekend. Talk about ever-changing track conditions.
Oh my gosh. That's inevitable.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So Friday, downpours, flooding, crazy weather. I will also say, if you have a chance to watch the GNCC, there are two guys now doing a race podcast the day of the races, and they're covering all of the racing.
So like a live feed.
Live feed.
Pretty cool.
I would love. It's awesome, and that's what we were talking about this weekend. Is it's awesome. I want more. That's selfish. It's awesome. They're covering the amateur racing. They're covering. I want more. I want people out 3 miles out to see how the battles are going and that kind of stuff to report back. But they're covering the racing. So
anybody that covers amateur racing,
yeah.
I think that's where we step aside from everybody else. That nobody talks about amateur racing. It's always the pros.
So they were covering how they were watching the flagger, the Ricky, who does the checker flag and the 10 seconds and all that stuff. He was standing in a puddle of water, but they were getting reports that the track in the open areas was drying out at the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning race.
Mm-hmm. Where'd they race at this weekend?
They were up in Union, South Carolina, I think. It's clayish, hard pack base. Mm-hmm. The pro motorcycle guys on Sunday had hard pack tires on. I actually asked my nephew, I'm like, do you guys change tires? The only thing they change on the quad side is they go to a different width or height. Whereas motorcycle guys will have soft, intermediate, hard. Yeah. Some of them will go to a skinnier tire if it's super muddy and that kind of stuff. So the quads, they don't change a lot. But my nephew ended up in the 4x4 B class, finishing third this weekend after my debacle with him in Georgia, where he was leading and had a problem, broke a A-arm.
Yeah, an A-arm or a tie rod.
Yeah, tie rod. Broke a tie rod and ended up didn't finishing the last lap, 4.5 miles from the finish. This weekend he finished third, so still in the points hunt. But so we had GNCC this weekend, quad and bike. I4MX had a race up at Spider. Yeah.
Yep. And the Matt Bell that we always talk about of HBI Racing, they did it looked like they did I think the scavenger hunt was at Mesa last week, but they did a big church service up there, and
I saw a video on that this week.
Has a lot of interaction with the kids.
Yeah.
And, they're always doing cool stuff for the kids, and they're definitely somebody you want to follow. Matt Bell, find him on Facebook. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on. Actually, it's funny. There was a lot going on for not a lot going on.
Yeah, we didn't race at all this week. We had a week off, and I thank God every day for it. But we still were involved in racing because we sold a PW. We sold our race PW and bought a full-blown Loretta's, not quite a Cycle Works bike, but a Loretta's prepped, I would say, PW50. So it runs on VP MR12. So my whole garage smells like VP now.
Nice.
So we were still involved. I mean, it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. So yeah, our week off was still spent.
Yeah.
We went to the beach right before we picked up the bike. So
Okay.
we went to the beach, and then we left the beach totally sunburnt, and then went and picked up our PW. So
Well, I'm glad you guys had a positive weekend. My mentor and race buddy is still angry with me because I didn't order my parts fast enough. But and for those that don't know me, I am not a mechanical guy. I have done maintenance on my bike before, and I did put my new chain, sprocket bolts, and lock nut on this weekend. Thank you. And they're all torque specific. They're torqued properly.
You're moving up in the world.
Well, I will say my daughter's boyfriend went and got me the hex head attachments for my socket wrench so that we could torque properly from the front side, because you just can't get to the back bolts on a bike with a torque wrench. And he actually went and got me the hex head. So I'd like to thank Harbor Freight for their ability to have tools that fit. And so everything is done. Bike is ready to go for the next race. We're kind of in a lull on the enduro side. There is a national enduro coming up in May. There was one in April, but we missed that one. So there is one coming up, but we've had some hair scramble stuff. My buddy went and did there was an FTR race this weekend.
Seen that.
Down in Indiantown, big Okeechobee area. Great piece of property. If you're a hunter, this is a piece. They do nature tours, they do hunts, they do all this stuff, and they host an FTR race. They've done it off and on for the past couple years. Beautiful piece of property, and the road to get in there is one of those roads. It's actually titled like a Florida Canopy Road, and absolutely gorgeous drive to get in. So FTR had a race this weekend. Lots of people going on. Speaking of FTR, Jesse Ansley racing, GNCC. I saw Instagram, and I say FTR because Jack Chambers is one of our guys, and we talk about him some. He made a post. Did you see his post?
I didn't. Like, you know how we were over the weekend.
He made a post. He's like, hey, I've gotten the call up. I want to thank Rides Unlimited and all the guys, but I'm out. Wait, you're out? He's gotten some ride he hasn't told us, but people are like, oh man, congratulations, that's great. So obviously there's people that know.
Yeah.
But Jack Chambers has gotten, I don't know if it's Supercross. I don't know if he's taken over for Zach Osborne in XC2 because Zach's still hurt on Yamaha. I don't know. I haven't heard, but dude, do what you can to get your name out there. So Jack, he's no longer, he will not be on the East Coast Supercross the rest of this year. He's gotten, or maybe he is for a different team.
Just don't know yet.
I don't know.
So we'll have some news next weekend.
We'll have some news because I'm hoping it pops. I mean,
yeah, it's going to come up, especially us being the local Florida boys.
Yeah.
Jack Chambers only lives 20 minutes from us, so he's not far away. So.
Oh, speaking of 20 minutes, today I was out doing my real job, real estate, and I went by the James Stewart compound today. Mm-hmm. Every time I go by there, and if you're from this area, oh yes, you just like, I wish people were out riding. You're always waiting for someone to float over one of the doubles or something, and no one was out riding today. But golly, Pete, man,
you know how many times I've considered buying one of the houses right outside of the compound just so I can
be there.
I'll be that idiot standing at the gate, just drooling. You know, like I said, we've said from day one, we're not crazed fans, but if you see the Stewart compound with your own eyes, it's remarkable. I mean, this place is unbelievable.
Well, there's been professionals that have said, dude, I'm not hitting those jumps.
It's not. I mean, it is a gnarly track. You'll see, if back in the day, Xbox had a game called MX vs. ATV Alive, and a lot of people will remember this. So my cousin and my best friend, we pre-ordered the game just so we could get the James Stewart compound on the game. and it's a full replica scale of the James Stewart compound. So we know the compound like the back of our heads, but those jumps are out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's nothing like you see on you'll see YouTube and all these guys with their compounds. They got nice Supercross setups. Now there's 2 Supercross setups up there, but their outdoor motocross track, these jumps are pushing every bit of. Most of them, I bet the smallest one's 100 feet.
Well, did you see? I listened to a podcast one time, and Bubba was talking about when he was learning how to do the scrub. They said, like, I can't remember who was there, but they're like, dude, we thought he was going to hit the building because where he was turning, like he was turning and he was aiming towards one of the buildings, and that's where he was like, and they're like, yeah, we thought he was going to hit the building with what he was turning, but that's where those techniques, and that's also where Malcolm got his fishing prowess from, because they have ponds and stuff out there, and obviously Malcolm fishes in
just
other big lakes.
Florida
but,
in general, I mean, we are loaded with lakes.
Yeah.
So.
But no, I passed by it today, and it's awesome because you'll if you really want to know, like, where is James? I think they were trying to find James Stewart. It was Steve Mathis and Adam Cianciarulo did a huge thing on it, and at the front of their compound, at the entrance where you have your mailbox, they have a tire.
The dirt bike tire. I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah.
My wife's obsessed with James Stewart, like we've talked about over and over again, and I keep telling her, listen, James has half a tire on his mailbox, so why don't we replicate that?
Yeah.
No, ain't happening.
Yeah, but it's funny because you go by there and you're like, oh, this is... But if you're a motorcycle guy, you know as you're driving by, you're like, why are there stadium lights out here? Yeah. I mean, they have Musco lighting. They have...
We know where it is.
Yeah.
But if you're driving by it, what's nice for them is there's a whole bunch of housing right in front. So they have a nice paved driveway going into it, and there's a whole lot of just kind of run down houses in the front of it. So you wouldn't even know it's there unless... I mean, you can see the faces of the jumps because these jumps are just massive, like we said. But it's the entrance is probably the best.
Yeah.
But the whole compound in general, and us being so close to it,
and it's just,
I love it.
I tell you, the one I want to find, because I just want to go there, and you and I have spoken about this off podcast and off record.
My wife
before.
has messaged me, and she is home.
She's home from running?
Yes.
Congratulations.
She's safe and sound.
Yes. By the way, we shoot these videos off my phone, so my wife couldn't text me, and she was out doing her running, and I told her, just text Derac. So
she said something about Trey's not home, you're safe to come. She must have forgot about the podcast tonight.
but the one Derac and I've been wanting to get to, and I've got to figure out. I know Jason Chambers pretty well. I want to go hang out at Jack Chambers' place because, yes, there's some really good riders that ride there, but I think you and I both have said
we talk about it all the time.
We just want to go watch pros train. I just want to go watch what they do. I've watched pros in tennis train. I've watched pros in car racing train. I just want to go watch how pro motocross guys train.
Yeah, so like I myself have rode with some of those pros, not the high level pros, but what people consider, the average person that rides or watches Supercross considers the low level pros. I've rode with a lot of those guys, but to sit back and watch. So when you're riding, they'll say on Supercross over and over again on the podcast or on the broadcast that when you're following a fast guy, you can always pick up lines and you can see what they do, and that's true. And I think a lot of my speed came from that over the years riding with a lot of those guys. But to sit and watch them is a whole nother. It's a whole nother level, and just what you can pick up on from a riding standpoint. Yeah, I would love to visit the Chambers compound. Just minutes from us.
Yeah, I mean it's literally in Auburndale somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's not one of those things where we're going to shoot video from or whatever. I just want to go watch.
Yeah, we'd love to have Jack on here. And just to get him some recognition and just to talk about the actual life of Supercross.
Yeah, what's that like? Yeah, because I know for the first year, I know last year we were discussing. His sister still races FTR.
Yeah.
And by the way, she's a really good A-level women's rider. Mm-hmm. She's good. Like I followed her because I couldn't pass her. She's really good. I'm an old man. She's really good. I tried to pass her. She was like, no, we're not going to have that. So like she will also put you on the ground if you're disrespectful to her.
Yeah.
But mom and dad were both also good riders. So it's a family, as we've talked about, this is a family sport.
Mm-hmm.
For the Chambers family, this is a family sport. Dad I don't know if he still was, so I'm guessing he could hop on a bike and still be a good rider. Mom was also a good rider. Mom also put me in, we were in racing in Bartow one time, and Mom came by me and checked me into the woods a little bit. Because I was in her way.
Did you deserve it?
Yeah, probably. I probably didn't get out of the way fast enough. And now daughter, who we started on the same line or one line, and her and I ended up together at one point. I thought I was going to pass her, and she hit the throttle. And I don't hit the throttle. I kind of cruise through the throttle. She hit the throttle and decided that I was in the way. And I probably was. I'd never blame anybody. But I would love to, and the whole point of that is daughter. Actually, there was a time that Jack and her were traveling together. She was going to the races with him last year, and so she kind of got to live that, okay, I'm your supervisor.
Yeah.
And because you can't do it on your own. At 17, 16, 18 years old, let's put it this way, I did that. You don't want to send your kid out into the world on their own.
No.
And especially in the Supercross world, if you listen to the 90s podcast or what they did in the 90s and early 2000s. And, I mean, for God's sakes, Chad Reed won a championship hungover. So, I mean, you don't want to send your kid out in that world on their own. So I would just love to talk with the family and see how that dynamic works. That being said, I'd also like to get Jesse Ansley on. This kid's a good rider. He's actually really good. He's struggling in the GNCC. He does okay. I threw out the other day to, I think, Michelle, maybe someone else. I'm like, why don't you go try Supercross, motocross? Go try motocross. See, because you obviously have this span, like enduro-wise, these sections. You are awesome. This 3-hour GNCC, you kind of struggle a bit.
Yeah.
Motocross is 35 minutes. GPs, like.
Well, that's how I was when you
Yeah.
talked me into riding that FTR race. I mean, you get sections where I can jump, and then I'm soaring, and I was riding with all the A guys, and then I get into the 10-mile mark, and it's like,
yeah,
and then by the whole lap, the 14-mile lap, and you're just whooped, because the mentality of the Supercross is ride.
Yeah.
It's balls out until the end. But FTR, I've never wrapped my head around you got to pace yourself here and pace yourself there. We do that in motocross. We do that in Supercross style, arena cross. There's sections where you can take it easy, but it's still a much faster pace. And though I was very good at FTR there for the lap that I rode, I did practice that day. So I rode that too, and I was way out ahead of everybody, but I can't keep up with those guys. I mean, it's a whole nother.
Here's the deal: you did a practice lap, and you did one race lap, and you did more miles than you would do in a motocross weekend.
Yeah, and then some. I mean, and then some.
Yeah, and that's the difference. That is the fun we have with the disciplines. Is I have no qualms. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you do flat track. I don't care if you do speedway. I don't care, and I don't think Derac cares. We appreciate all of it because each of it is hard. And its own element.
Yeah, it's all its own thing.
Yeah,
you're gonna be proud of me because I looked at my bike today. I was smelling that VP, and I looked at all these FTR pictures from over the weekend. I'm like, I think I might ride one of those this year.
Oh, if you do, I want to come.
You might be riding it too.
Maybe, but
I'm up in the air. If I can get these ribs figured out, if they quit breaking on me, then I think I might. Is there any more in Bartow this year?
I'm sure there'll be one more. Yeah. I think there's gonna be one extra one. I think one of the clubs is gonna put one on. If I don't work it, I'll ride it.
Yeah,
but
if there's another local one somewhere in this area, then
okay.
You can be my pit crew. Maybe I'll go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go run it.
So the whole point of this thing is we're 2 days late because we had some family stuff, and that just happens. And we were very fortunate that there was family stuff happening with a non-race weekend, professionally wise, for us to break down. By the way, we're going to Arizona this weekend. Great track, great soil. We've all seen the map of the track. It's a tied series. really, can we get any better?
Yeah.
But the whole point of this week is, since we were off, there was racing that happened, and we've touched on that. We've touched on our goofiness. This is the week that Derek and I wanted to say, who the hell is Derek and who the hell is Trey, and why are we doing this? And honestly, we don't know why we're doing it, but we enjoy it.
I mean, there's only one explanation why we're doing it, because we live and breathe this
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, we absolutely love it. And because of the family stuff, I apologize that we have no setup this week, so it's pure raw this week.
Hey, I think it's awesome because we had the first one where it was just the camera, our raw audio.
Yep.
Then we had the second one where we had the setup,
We
but
still don't have our studio
with no pea popper stoppers. And then we had the pea popper stoppers with the setup outside. And this week we have the pea popper stoppers with no setup because, and that's the thing is, we're always going to be raw. There may be an F-bomb. There may be stuff that you don't like. There may be stuff that offends you. And I've come up with a new thing. I have this phrase that, do you remember, you're young, so I don't know if do you remember Smokey the Bear?
If you don't remember Smokey the Bear, I mean...
Okay, but Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires.
Wildfires. Only you can prevent wildfires.
But I use that if people are like, oh man, I'm a little overweight.
There's a bee behind you.
That's okay.
Okay.
I say that to people like, hey, you're allowed, only you can make yourself better. You can.
Yeah.
So I say like, and I'll tell Michelle, hey, only you can prevent forest fires. And she looks at me, she's like, I hate you. Well, I came up with a new one today. I said something the other day on Facebook, and I figured it was going to offend some people. And I came up with, my mom used to tell me, if you like the outfit, wear it. If it offends you, there may be a reason.
Yeah.
So that's my new thing is, so I have two now. I have Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires, and if you like the outfit, wear it. I think if that happens to you on this podcast, don't give up. We're going to say stuff. We're probably going to stay. I mean, right now, my best moto buddy, my guy who travels with me, my guy who helps me, won't answer my text messages. So obviously I've done something to piss him off.
We are very straightforward people.
Yeah.
Very straightforward. And our wives yell at us all the time.
And it frustrates me that this guy that I respect, can do anything mechanically. I did something that made him angry. I don't know what it is. I don't know what. I hope we get past it because I rely on him. He's also kind of like, you're my race buddy. He's my race buddy. Like when we actually go to races,
yeah.
And it's like, dude, I don't have that many. I have my wife, I have you, and I have him. And it's like, did I do something wrong? Like, what did I do wrong? Can we fix it? So that's my apology tour to my mechanic and mentor. I hope that we can move past that. So like, and maybe I said something. Maybe I said something. It happens. I say stuff to Michelle all the time. Luckily, she still lets me live indoors. So
for now, I've heard the threats.
So we're 24 minutes in. We've talked about a lot of nonsense, a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. I say nonsense. I'm not taking anything away. FTR, GNCC, National Enduro, Stewart Compound, local pro stuff.
Still motocross. So.
I'm guessing with Easter this weekend, there's going to be no Dade City race this weekend.
No, but we are talking about practice at Spider this weekend.
Okay.
So
all right.
There'll still be some riding. There's always riding, but yeah. Other than that,
for me, I've got a big date on Friday with my tractor guy to work on my bush hog.
There you go.
So I'm either going to be riding Saturday or bush hogging Saturday, one of the two, at the private compound.
Yeah.
The sand field.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this.
The weed field at this point.
If you ever come to my house, if you ever figure out where it is and you come to it, if you can ride there, you can ride anywhere. Yeah. It is one of the toughest, nastiest, gnarliest. It sucks. It sucks.
The first time I ever rode there, I think I launched myself 50 feet. caught I caught a big root or something and laid my bike in a bush, and I was out through the field.
Yeah, but if you can ride there, you can pretty much ride anywhere. So,
Yeah.
if I'm not out bush hogging this weekend, I'm gonna ride some just because I want to break the bike back in on stuff. By the way, that sound you heard was the neighbor taking their trash out because tomorrow's trash day. So, like I said, we're raw. But we're going to talk about the most important thing this week is who the hell is Derac Schaefer and who the hell is Trey Heath and why are we sitting here? I'm wearing my best Easter outfit, by the way. I have my socks, not all that wander are lost, because that's how I feel. I have kind of lived a life of the highway. And I have my plaid shorts on for Easter, 100%, who I'm not sponsored by, but if you guys would like to sponsor me, I love your goggles and love your sunglasses. And Derac, who the hell are you?
I'm just a guy.
Where'd you come from?
Originally, I'm from Brookville, Pennsylvania.
Where the hell's that?
It's about an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Everybody knows Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Small town, 3,000 people. I think there was 105 in my graduating class.
It's pretty small.
I was ranked like number 105.
Congratulations, you've made it.
Yes, here I am. They only passed me because they wanted me the hell out of there.
You sound like Gary Vaynerchuk.
My second week of my senior year, I had the entire Brookville police force at the school for me. I was not an easy kid.
Okay.
And I'm very well getting my punishment back right now with the 3 that I got.
Well, you do have 3 boys.
Yeah.
Of varying degrees of boy. Like
they're all different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you have earned your stripes.
Yeah, and it's taking a toll on me every day.
So how did you get into dirt bikes?
So I was about 2 years old, and I think that's why I've started all my kids at 2. I don't know, it just sticks with you. My dad brought me. I mean, I vaguely remember this. We might get into this, all my injuries, but I actually ended up cracking my skull at one point in my life. But
So
my dad bought me.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
My dad bought me an old, what the heck are them called? Like the LT50 quads. The Suzuki's,
Oh, yeah.
the old orange ones.
So you started on the quad too?
I started on a quad.
Okay.
I don't want to admit it.
Well, Swap Motors
Don't
started
hold it against me.
Swap Motors started on a 3-wheeler. So and
Yeah.
Ricky Carmichael started on a 3-wheeler.
I did. I started on a quad.
Okay.
And not for very long. I knew where I belonged.
Were you drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon at that time?
I might have been. I hope I was.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't drink it nowadays. But anyway, nothing against you, PBR. Or I do have everything against you. But anyway.
They're really good ice cold.
I don't know. I can't drink them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. He's gluten intolerant, just FYI. So any of our fans out there that have a gluten intolerant beer, we would love to try them.
I don't know. I found probably the prime of all of them. So
okay.
I buy it by the double case every.
All right.
It doesn't matter how often. Anyway, yeah. So
It depends on the week.
Huh?
It depends on the week.
This week is
double case.
Yeah, probably. It's been a week. Yeah, we were in and out of the hospital this week. So anybody that's wondering, with our youngest son, it's never anything good. But yeah, I started on a quad. It wasn't long. I think I was probably 5 when I switched to bikes. I told my dad years, you start riding. I told my dad. I vaguely remember like, I want a dirt bike. So I never thought it would happen. And one day he brings me home an old YZ. Well, he brought the old Honda. What is it? Their mini bike, the big fat tire mini bike.
Yeah.
Trail Boss or
Yeah.
I don't remember, Track and Trail, or I think it's a Track and Trail. I can't remember. But he brought me home one of those one day, and I rode it, and I loved it. I remember dropping my leg, the first turn I hit, and right there was meant to be. The very next night, he brought me home like an old 80s, I think it was like an 80s YZ60. Total step up. But we got that thing running. I jumped on it the same night, and the rest is history, so they say. But from there on out, it wasn't much longer. He bought me a brand new like XR80, I actually started racing the XR80. That's what I started on.
So you were like an off-road guy already.
And on a motocross track.
Yeah.
So, and I think my dad quickly learned that it took a long time for my parents to allow the racing. I was about 8 when I started racing, and they still weren't real keen on it. After we started, my mom was head over heels for it, but my dad, even if you're watching this, which I don't think he will, but he wasn't real big into what I wanted to do. So he bought me an RM85 brand new, and I started riding for a local dealership when I was pretty young. It's called Speed and Sport. That was the name of the dealership that we.
Is it still alive
still
today?
Still alive in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Punxsutawney?
Phil.
Really?
Yep.
So they're still going.
Yep.
Shout out. We had Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah. And that's right in the area where I'm from. So any people that are from Florida and not my Pennsylvania people, Punxsutawney Phil is right outside of where I was born.
Can we pause for a second? Just pause for a second.
Anything you want to talk about?
What the hell is up with those people wearing the long coats and the top hats? Why has that become a thing? In the Punxsutawney, like why? What is that?
I'm going to tell you a little insight on us people and anybody from my neck of the woods that
help us out.
Nobody gives a shit about that groundhog up there.
It's kind of like Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah,
it's actually the smallest holiday there is.
Nobody cares.
Okay.
So that whole crowd that you see over this stupid shadow and some groundhog, we have groundhog hunts up there. Okay, there's a lot of like local fire departments and clubs and stuff that host groundhog hunts, and you win money and all that. That's what we do with groundhogs up there. They're a nuisance. So I can say that I have never been to the Gobbler's Knob groundhog festivities in my life, and I never plan to go. And anybody that wants to sit out there and see a rodent in the freezing cold is out of their minds. So why they do that?
Okay. So it's more of a tradition type thing.
It's more of a people are sometimes special.
Okay.
All
right.
Each is their own.
Continue on. Slight break, but I mean we're talking about stuff that we see on TV and
yeah.
And I'm like, these guys are in long coats and top hats, so it must be important. But thank you for updating us.
It's not important, but
continue on. You were sponsored by a shop that happened to wear top hats and long coats.
Yeah, pretty much. So my racing career from there is kind of hazy. It was on and off for a while. I started breaking bones. I mean, my whole career, and we would get into this. I've been very close to Loretta's, but it's always it's a sad story for me because there's something has always taken me out of it. I may have had that shot when I was younger, but I've just there was always some injury that prevented me from going anywhere. So a lot of the local tracks, the track on my 85. When I first started racing, I think my first year racing, I won third in the points series, out of all the 85s around.
What were the home tracks? Because like some of the guys that we follow, like we've heard of some of the big tracks. Like, did you race in Englishtown, High Point, those Pennsylvania, Mount Morris,
Steel City MX, which is no longer there, but yeah.
But we know, but
we've raced it.
Yeah.
They used to have Pymatuming MX. Iron Valley MX, which is no longer there. That's where I won points series at. Challenger MX, it's not there anymore, I don't believe. It was in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Maple Shade MX in Sugar Grove, High Point. I'm trying to think of all of them. There used to be Fox Raceway in Marionville, PA.
Because they did the Kawasaki, the Race of Champions or something in Kawasaki up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, man, I can't even remember where.
Englishtown? Was that in Englishtown?
Yeah, and then that's like eastern.
Okay, so that's a little further.
Yeah, we're western PA,
okay,
for sure.
So you were closer to West Virginia, Mount Morris, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours from the Ohio border.
Okay.
So, and we did run a lot in Ohio. I know now they have like Route 62 MX. We used to ride a Switchback MX, which is still operational. They're pretty big now. They have like an arena cross.
Okay.
I did a lot of riding there in my late teens. We'll get into that. Nemix MX was right across Ohio. That was one of the first like arena cross style, and it was awesome. I mean, for us as kids, once I got my driver's license, that's where my whole world opened up.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my dad kind of took me out of it, but we still rode. We used to have a place called Camp Kevin. It was a practice track, a local practice track. They used to have a huge 4th of July party, and we would get a lot of pros like Ben Ritter. A lot of the big national guys would come out there. That's where I've rode with a lot of pros at Camp Kevin. And my cousin and I were still in 85s. We knew we had something. My cousin Brady Schaefer, I don't know if he's going to watch this or not. I was actually talking to him today. But we used to ride 85s with the 250s. And then everybody knew the talent that we had. But we weren't racing. I mean, we'd race here and there. And as I grew older, Camp Kevin shut down. Now it's like a big. They hold a farm jam there. It's where a whole bunch of bands come in, and he leveled the track out. And as you know, you probably don't know, but the insurance costs on tracks it's unbelievable. We've talked about how I want to build a track. I want to own a track. That's my dream, is to own a motocross track. A whole compound, indoor, outdoor. Someday it'll happen, but yeah, so my cousin and I used to ride from my house. We would ride the main roads, and we'd go ride that track till dark, and then we'd ride home in the dark, just about every night. And I had a little track in my yard. Our state and township trucks that would like grade the roads, like all of our dirt roads. They would dump the dirt at our house, and we had a John Deere tractor, and we always build jumps, and that's actually where I ended up taking my digger and smashing my skull. But from there on out, as I got older, I broke many bones. There was a time in my life I went back to quads because I broke my wrist. I broke it 4 times. My right wrist. It's crooked. It's too hard to show on the camera. But I broke my wrist 4 times, and the reason I went back to quads is I didn't listen to doctors, and I couldn't pull the throttle on my bike anymore. So I cut out my cast enough that I bought a 400EX, totally race setup, Olin shocks, the whole 9 yards. And I found out that I could use a thumb throttle. So that's why I went back to quads for a while until my arm healed, and it never really healed right. So I stayed on quads for a little bit, and then I got back to bikes. So about 17, when I could drive again, that's when the whole world opened back up. I jumped back on bikes. I quit for a little while. It's an expensive sport. I moved out of my house at 17. I was still a senior in high school. So I moved out. I got an apartment at 17, lied, said I was 18. I had a girlfriend at the time, which she was 18 and old enough to get the apartment. Doesn't matter. That's probably a touchy subject. But I got the apartment, and I'm like, I'm going to buy a dirt bike. I had some graduation money coming up, and I'm like, I'm going to buy a dirt bike again. I'm going to start racing because it's in your blood. You miss it.
Yeah.
I followed Supercross my whole life. Followed all the outdoors. A buddy of mine, we used to go to, when the pros were there, the nationals, we would go to all the High Point races, the Steel City races. But I bought another bike. I think it was like an 08 KX250F. Always been on Cowies for some reason when it comes to big bikes. And
HB, I would appreciate that.
They just made their move to Cowie, and I messaged Matt Bell, and I'm like, you're never going to regret that decision, even though I'm sitting over here thinking about going to Honda since they got rid of the Unicam system. So I ended up buying that bike, and I sold it, and I bought a Honda to get into this, and I bought an 06 Mint CRF 250, and I'm like, I'm going to start racing again. I started racing a series at oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. Maple Shade MX. I started racing that series. I got big into the switchback, and so I decided. So Loretta's has always been a dream for me because I could never, like I said, I could never make it because of injuries. Maybe we can get into my injuries at some point, but I raced that series. I think I got the first year I got like third in the point series again. Um, and when I started riding the indoor series at Switchback MX, I realized that I still had the speed. I started riding with a bunch of the pros, the local pros, and I could go out there and hang with them. So I got tied in with Best Kawasaki in Big Run, Pennsylvania. It's a dealership. I bought a brand new. It's in 2012. 2012, I bought a brand new KX250F, and decided I was going for Loretta's that year. So I started again. I started back on my workout routine. And from Pennsylvania, our off season is the winter. So I would do 3-mile runs in sub-zero temperatures.
Oh.
And I did that to build my lungs. So I would purposely go out when it was that cold to freeze my lungs. And I'm going to tell you right now, it worked. Because I could pull 30, 40, 50-minute motos in practice and never be out of breath. I eliminated arm pump, which they say is impossible. I had it all going. So I raced Steel City that year, 2012 or 2013. I raced Steel City MX for the Thor Spring Series. So, a lot of pros. I raced that series. I ended up landing on a kid in Moto 1, and I hit him so hard I snapped my chain. I lined up with 43 bikes per moto. It was the biggest race I've ever attended in my life. I ended up with a DNF in Moto 1 and still finished 16th overall. So that was my factor where I was pretty hesitant when I landed on that kid Moto 2, but I still went out and rode. But that was my breaking point that I'm like, you're still fast. So I think I still had a lot of doubts in myself at that point, but I knew the speed was there, so I worked and worked and worked. I rode the Switchback series. I trained. So Switchback MX from my house was about 2 hours away, hour and a half, 2 hours, and I would ride there every night. So I would go and ride there indoor during the winter almost every night. Unless something happened or too tired from work, I would haul my race trailer to work with me and then go practice and then get home at midnight and do it all over again. Do my workout before I went to bed. It was a never-ending battle. And we were there. We were going to go to Tomahawk and race the Loretta qualifier. And I was ready. We had Pleasure Valley MX too. I missed the qualifying race there, and I'm like, we're going to go to Tomahawk, and I was pretty certain I could qualify at that point. I was in a good spot. The bike was right. The bike was the most comfortable bike I've ever been on, and everything jived. I mean, everything was. I felt like a Barca at that point. Everything just clicked. So this PAMX State Championship race. Fast forwarding that same year, I went out and I pulled the whole shot, and the guy come up, second place guy, he got into first, and we were at Maple Shade again for that race series, and it was a state championship race. But I vaguely remember we come around so there's a huge turn out of the whole shot, and then so turn 2 dipped down into kind of like a big table. It's like a double, but a table in a way, like a dipped in table. And ruts were really bad that day. It was like a mutter, but the sun was out, so we had a mutter the night before, and we both kind of pulled a whip the opposite way coming off of that table. But when I whipped, I was cross-rutted with my front tire, and the bike almost 180. And I tried to bring it back, and I just panic revved to living hell, and I couldn't get it back enough, and I landed sideways. But when I landed from there, it's all a blur, but I landed on my neck, and I compressed my spine, all 4 or 5 vertebrae. I'm not a spine guy by any means, but I smashed them all together with a neck brace on, smashed them all together, and shattered my collarbone for the 3rd time. I tried to get back up, get my bike up, and then I realized, you're done. And my neck was like tingling. So the ambulance, all that came up because I laid right back down on the ground, and most of it's a blur. But I looked back up, and all the ambulance there. I'm like, my collarbone's shattered, and they're like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Look at the sport we're in. I've done this many times, and my mom come running down. My wife now, it was one of her first races with me, and this is the horror that I put her through. But I knew what was wrong, and I told them, collarbone wise, and they were pretty pissy about it. I was kind of like overthrowing what they were saying. So I rode off on like a mule back up to the pits. Left my bike there. They handled all of that, and I get back up there, and we loaded myself into my mom's car, I believe, and we went to Warren General Hospital in Warren, PA. I lost feeling in my legs on the way there. So
What's that sensation like? So, I mean,
it went from moving to nothing. So it almost felt like I'm just like sitting on a cloud. I don't know if anybody else, paraplegics, anybody that has actually been through it. I don't know what it actually feels like to get paralyzed. I mean, I was paralyzed for like 2-3 days, and but like I said, I was just sitting there, so it's not like just like this, broken collarbone, holding my collarbone. And it's like you look down. For some reason, I look down and I'm like, I don't feel anything. Scariest moment of my life. And I looked over at my mom. I'm like, and my wife's behind me. Girlfriend at the time, wife now. I'm like, I can't feel my legs. And I think she almost, I don't know if she was crying or not. I was in so much pain it didn't matter. I was crying because I was in pain. My collarbone was just flapping.
Yeah.
I broke it many times, but I've never broke it like that. And I looked at her. I'm like, I lost feel. I can't feel my legs. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's nothing there. Like I can't move them. I tried. I bent my hips, and I could turn at the waist, but that was it. So.
Did you try to wiggle your toes and stuff?
I tried to do it. Nothing would move.
Oh.
Tried to bend at the knees. I tried to lift my legs. I tried to like sit up one armed, and I couldn't even do that. So as soon as we got there to the hospital, my mom, I think it was my mom or my wife now, told them that he said he can't feel his legs. Well, they extricated me through the back of the car. They had to call an ambulance in. We're at the hospital. I mean, mind-blowing, and they wouldn't pull me out of there. They called an ambulance in to pull me out of the car. So they took me out through the back seats, and they laid me down flat, took me out through the back seats, and got me in there. From there, I was on a backboard for 8 hours.
Ooh.
I could feel my neck at that point, and it was just miserable. And a lot of it, because that ball on the back of your neck was laying on the backboard. And that's where a lot of the pain was anyway. And they transferred me to Erie, PA. I can't even, Hammett Hospital. And that's talked to all the neurosurgeons and all that stuff. And they said, his spine was smashed together. I still suffer repercussions from it. It gets numb all the time, tingles. Still while riding, I have a lot of issues with the neck. But I ended up having surgery the next day on the collarbone. They put it all back together, plate, like 10 screws, I think. And then it's like day 2, felt my toes, felt my feet. Then it all came back from there. Thank God, God's great, I guess, in that aspect. And
so I have to stop you because for the average human, I understand in the different sports I've done, but the average human says like, okay, cool, I escaped. Excuse my French. The fuck would you get back on a bike?
I didn't. 10 years.
10 years?
10 years.
But why now?
So, fast forward, all that healed. I was in a neck brace for 3 months.
What were you thinking? What? So, I'm only asking because I remember when I did my shoulder as a tennis player, I played video games for like 9 months.
So I lived by myself at that point. It wasn't a week. I had moved back in with my mom. Couldn't do anything. So can't wipe your own ass. I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah, my shoulder was my right shoulder. I'm left-handed.
I broke both arms at one time.
Oh. See,
So,
my wife told me, she's
Like
like,
I said, we
I
didn't
will-
get into the injuries.
yeah, I'll help you, but I ain't helping you.
Yeah.
And luckily, she's like, you're ambidextrous, so you're on your own.
Yeah, and that's how I became ambidextrous. Was when I broke my wrist. I was young, over and over and over again. And through school, I was only left-handed for months and months at a time.
Yeah.
And they pretty much got to the point. They're sympathetic at first, and then they're like, "Yeah, you're doing this on your own."
Yeah.
So I became left-handed. Now, I mean, I can still write left-handed, but it's gone away because
I can brush my teeth left-handed. I can shave.
Yeah.
I can do all that. I can
Yeah.
I wipe. I'm still actually I eat mostly left-handed. I'm left-handed,
yeah.
but I'm right-handed. But like,
Well, after not having when I shattered my collarbone, it was my left side. So I broke this collarbone 3 times. So
Yeah.
it has went back and forth my whole life. I've broken both collarbones. I've broken my wrist. I've broken my.
so with that trauma though, so we're diving in here. We're not going in deep into the injuries, but you have this trauma. The sport that you love has potentially taken away your ability to walk, earn money, do that kind of stuff. But you're healing. Move on with life. You're married. You start having kids. Why? What draws you back? It's not like is it crack cocaine? I mean, what is it?
I talked to Randy that owns Dade City MX just 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and he's like, I tell you what, let's back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Right after that injury, I needed an outlet, so I'm like, I'm done with bikes. Told myself I was done with bikes. I started flying airplanes. I thought that would
It's
give
another
me,
safe option.
yeah, I thought that would give me that. Whatever that is, it's an adrenaline rush, but it's like an addiction. I don't know. I mean, only people that do it know it, and all the people that are watching this are more than likely, I would say 85% of our audience would be riders.
But we have friends that you have your neighbor. He raced. He doesn't race
But he
anymore.
doesn't anymore.
He doesn't. How did he stop?
And for me, it's hard. I've asked myself this. I have over and over again. So I flew airplanes for a while. It's a very expensive hobby. I have a friend who went to Loretta's. From Pennsylvania, Zach Sparks. I hope you watch this. He went to Loretta's. He quit and did the same thing. He started flying airplanes right after I did. And he still rode here and there, like I did. I still owned bikes here and there. I still rode, but it wasn't, it was like very, very seldom. Once a month or something like that, which is seldom for what we do.
Yeah.
And I have a huge passion for flying, and I always have. My ultimate dream as a kid was to be a fighter jet pilot.
So have you talked to the guys at DMXS? Because one of those guys is a pilot. Barsha's a pilot.
I know they are, yeah, and for me, girlfriend at the time, wife now. It got to a point I couldn't afford it. But when I was flying, it was about $200 an hour, and I moved back in with my mom because of the injuries, and I was working like a $14 an hour job. It's hard to juggle a $200 an hour flight plan while you're living with that kind of income. But I fulfilled myself that way. I never finished my license. I'm only a few hours off just because of life happened, and her and I bought a house, and for me to get out of my mom's house after the injuries were all healed up. But I flew for a while, but it wasn't the same. I still love flying. I still go to Sun and Fun. I still watch. My wife gets totally pissed off at me all the time, and my kids are the same way now. We look up every time an airplane goes by, and I can tell you what that airplane is and the helicopters, and it doesn't matter. We're not an aviation podcast, but I quit doing that, not by choice. I wanted to finish my license, but just money got in the way, and she ended up getting pregnant. So fast forward to why is, I don't know. There was something inside of me that for those 10 years that I took the time off. It's not quite 10 years. 2013 is when I wrecked, August of 2013, and when I said I was done, and I started riding again in 22. So there's no explanation of why, I guess, but for that 10 years, I knew I struggled mentally. Like, I knew something was something was not right with me. I was, living paycheck to paycheck. We had kids. We had another kid, and then she was pregnant again on the third time before we moved here. I was working for the railroad at one point. I had a really, really good job, but I just never felt fulfilled. And once we moved here, and we'll get into that because that's how we met and all that, long before we moved here. And I deep down, I always knew, like, my wife going through that trauma that she went through mentally with seeing how I was and possibly losing my legs, and well, not losing my legs, but losing feeling in my legs and being paralyzed. And she actually bought me a bike at one time for Easter, and I kept it for a while, and we're like, we need the money, let's just sell it. And because mentally, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't get hurt. I mean, I was the income. She was in school most of our relationship. She's a speech therapist now. 100% proud of her for everything that she's accomplished, and we went through hell getting her there. But where we're at now is a whole other ball game. But she bought me a bike, and I think mentally, I was still. Well, what happens if you do get paralyzed, or what happens if you can't work? If you got a kid now. So I just knew something was missing, and we'll kind of backtrack once we get into how we met. But we moved to Florida. She graduated school. We come down here, and a friend of mine flew down, and we went to Dade City and watched like one of the pro opens up there. And obviously, I'm still full blown into motocross, and
You're still a fan.
Yeah, no matter what. I mean, I lived and breathed it my whole life, so that's all I knew. And so as a fan, I started down here, the heart of motocross. I started going to some of the tracks, and it wasn't instant, but it almost felt instant that's what's missing. Like, being in this atmosphere again. It's not just the riding; it's the atmosphere alone. And we've talked about this over and over and over again, that the motocross atmosphere is it just felt like home. Not like Pennsylvania home, like I, in my heart, felt home, So I told her, I'm like, I'm going to buy a bike. And she's like, go ahead. And I never thought I'd hear those words. And I think for the longest time, I didn't want to put her through that again. So I think that's why I steered away. I so much didn't take care of my body at all, when I was young. And racing, it's hard to take care of your body. I mean, you can be physically fit, but when you're breaking bones all the time, it's not good for you. So I ended up buying a bike again, and here we are. And I'm still not full blown into it. We bought my 7-year-old, now going to be 8 this month, a bike when he was 2, and he never. I mean, he's always rode. He's never, he's not hardcore into it. Our 5-year-old said that riding wasn't his thing, and we ended up buying the Stasic bikes, and he's a monster on those things.
Yeah, his smile is ridiculous.
It is, and I'm like, what if? I didn't even tell him. I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, let's get him a PW50. Let's just see how he does. So we had a CRF 50, and they're a lot heavier than the PW, and you got to shift. And I built training wheels for my oldest, and so I put my youngest or my middle son on the CRF with the training wheels, and we have a tennis court at our house. It's not used for tennis by any means, but
yeah, I don't understand why. I mean,
I bought the property and it was here, so now it's like our playground. But I put my middle son on the CRF 50 with the training wheels, and he ended up rolling. I took the throttle screw out because he was showing good improvement on the bike. He was doing good on the training wheels, and I took the throttle screw out because he wanted to go faster. I'm like, proud dad moment. You don't think about it, I guess. I don't know. And he ended up hauling ass across that tennis court and just cutting it like he was on a dirt bike without training wheels, and he barrel rolled, broke his elbow.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that's the second elbow he broke. He's broke 4 bones already, but
well, he's set to go then.
Yeah, he's ready. But we took him off of that, and we took a step back for a while. My oldest rode it here and there, and fast forward, we got the Stasics, and he was, killing it on those things, and that's why I told her we're going to buy a PW50. And that smile was the first thing he got when he twisted the throttle on that bike for the first time with no training wheels. Scared to death, and he just all smiles. So it has evolved from there, really, and it's turned back into a lifestyle for us. And I think I am slowly growing out of it, and we talked about this on the last podcast, because I went out and rode, MX school, and I told myself that you don't need to race. And I did, and I was perfectly fine. Now, I was upset with our bike issues, but I can't. I'm at the point in life I don't think I could ever stop riding again, because it's part of me, and I know it's something that was missing. But I do it for the kids, because now I do it for the kids. So why did I start again? I don't know. But now my kids literally look at me, and they look at Mom, and they're like, well, when's Dad going to ride? We want to watch Daddy ride. And I still have the speed. I just don't have the, I'm in the vet riders now. So
yeah, but don't you think, like, hey, I can go ride, and that's the, I've talked to your neighbor, another one of my friends that was really good. He his family talked him out. He hurt himself at a hair scramble one time, and I know where he crashed, and it was nasty.
Yeah.
It was bad, but the guy was good, and I'm like, dude, just go ride. Like, go ride. And you and I have talked about it, and if you can get to yourself, like, you went and did the class.
Yeah.
And you can go
I
practice.
did it for seat time, but
yes. But as long as there's not and I'm the first person to tell you, I don't care if you and I were playing flag football in your backyard. As soon as you say we're keeping score,
yeah, then
I'm gonna try to win. But as long as you can go out and ride, we can go to crewman ride. You can do classes. You go do these fun ride days, and you ride with your kids. That's different, and you can show them, like, hey, this is fun. You can teach them about the dangers of, but you don't have to show them the dangers of.
Correct. And like, slowly I'm getting there. And
I've been preaching. I've been trying.
I do think, for me, the missing element was Loretta's. It's one of those things that I've always, and it bothers me emotionally that I've never been there.
Okay, got a question. Let's stop right there.
No, go ahead.
Let's stop. Loretta's, you got to do a regional, an area, and then a regional.
Yeah.
So really, you have to do 2 races. You can go practice all you want.
Yeah.
All you have to do is finish. Most of the time in Florida, you got to finish top 8.
Yeah.
You got to finish top 8 in an area. You got to finish top 8 in a regional, and you're in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it again. Excuse my French. Does it fucking matter where you finish if you get there to Loretta's?
No,
okay.
And that's the thing for me.
So can you finish? Because that's also the class of, like, okay, what class is going to be the easiest for me to qualify into?
Yeah.
That experience. If you're willing to drop $15,000 for a week,
just to do it,
and
that's what's missing. I mean, I know it is,
but that's, if you can do that, and you're not worried about I gotta get on the podium. It's the week of being there.
It's just the being there, and
then I think we can accomplish that. But you're gonna have to process. This is fun. I'm not trying to win.
I know.
And that is the, because I'm all for it. I'm game. I'm in it. I'm your management. I'm your logistics. I am your heart and soul. But I also, there's no need to go screw yourself up for 1 week of something that doesn't matter.
Yeah. But now, as I watch my middle son progress, it's almost like if he can get to that point at some point in his life, it doesn't matter if I'm there.
But are you living through him, or is it, hey, I'm still getting to go?
Yeah, but I'm not living through him anymore. Like, when I started my oldest, I'm like, I think with that mentality that I had at that point in life, that it's your first kid, and you're like, I still mentally want to do that, so we're buying him a bike. He's going to ride, and now that we have 3, and at first I tried to progress our kids too quickly, and they broke bones, and that's on me. Not all of it, but now that I'm watching him progress on his own, I've stopped pushing at all. At all.
Yeah.
I asked them if they want to race, and the answer is always yes. With my middle son, the answer is always yes. But as I watch him progress, it's like I'm still. I think I get more fulfillment now, watching him do good. Like a few weeks ago when he went down in Dade City, he went down and still finished 4th or whatever. That made me happier than me being out there. And
so is it? And I only ask this because I come from that coaching world. Is it for him or is it for you?
At this point, it's for him because you see that smile.
Okay.
And you've seen the videos and him getting his first interview there. And
yeah. His smile is ridiculous. I'm telling you.
And when he's on that bike, he's smiling all the time. And
you get a camera shot of him going through the track, and it's like.
And I think that's what changed.
He's like he's cheesing at a prom picture.
Yeah, because I see me in him, so it's not about me anymore.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's good. That is step 2 of my process.
And it's always been like that with me. It's not about me, as much as I want to do that. I don't think you'll be happy to hear that. I don't think I need to do that because I do think we have kids that might have a promising future, and even if they don't, I talked to the guy that we bought our PW off of, and he's an avid Dade City racer, and his kid's pretty good, and even if they don't want that chance, we're going to give them the opportunity to have that chance that we didn't have.
Yeah.
So I financially, and with the injuries and all that, Loretta's was not probably something that wasn't even if I could have made it without the injuries. I think, looking back, I think I could have made it, but could I financially have actually went? I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of people that qualify that never go
because you can't.
Yeah.
And it's
a $10,000 week.
I could go out and ride with all the people that have qualified and smoke them, and that's when I knew I could make it. But I thought to myself that I don't have any rich family. I don't have anybody that actually supports this the way that I want the support, or the support that I need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I had some sponsors and all that, but they're not going to fork out $10,000, for you to go to Loretta's.
Yeah, because you're talking.
It's local sponsors that want to advertise, and
you either got to have an RV or you got to have motels for literally 6 days.
Yeah, and we didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
We had a race trailer, it's like 6x12 enclosed race trailer. So, at this point in my life, we have our toy hauler. We got how many bikes? We got a new truck. Our kids are going to have the opportunity to make that happen if they want to. If they don't want to, I'll still be fulfilled because I know how much they love racing.
Could you be fulfilled? And I'm only asking this as a selfish question. Could you be fulfilled if you and I found that kid that wanted to go, and you and I got to go hang out there for a week to help a couple of kids?
It's very possible. I mean,
I'm just curious because
I've never been in that situation to know. Like, I've helped many kids learn to ride. I've helped kids improve their skills. And you've talked to me. Why aren't you coaching? But yes and no. Coaching my own kids is hard because they don't listen to you anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, your kids don't listen. Don't worry.
No, they don't.
I've got a 20-year-old. They don't listen.
No. So
they love you, but they don't listen.
And we took Oakley, my oldest, to Spider, and I tried to work on turns with him. I took his bike from him, and I'm like, "This is how you need to hit the turn." I took the bike and I did it, and I'm not doing it that way. So you just can't. I don't know. It's hard, but with kids that would actually listen to your guidance and leadership, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would help for sure. But yeah, it's
And I will tell you, I came from. We're gonna get into my story the next off weekend, but I truly believe it is tough for someone who has done. I did, and then I got into coaching,
yeah.
and I would come home repetitively, and I wouldn't have a smile on my face, and we would have had a big win or a tough loss or something, and Michelle would ask like, "What's up?" I'm like, "It wasn't me. I'm so proud of them,
Yeah.
or I feel bad for them, but I wasn't doing. Yes, I was coaching, but I wasn't competing,
And,
and
I think I still have that competitive mentality in me.
and that's a tough transition.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's a question that I don't know unless I did it because
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I mean, I know how I am with my kids, but they're my kids. It's a whole different
Yeah.
relationship versus.
And I'm very fortunate. My kid did gymnastics and horses, and guess what? You know what Trey doesn't know? I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Good job you stayed on, or good job you completed
Yeah.
the flip. I don't know anything about
Like
those
I
two
said,
things.
It's one of those things that I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, and maybe someday I'll get an answer to that.
Yeah.
And
But I think it's not worth harping. It's not worth harping on or stressing about. And I mean, I coached college tennis for years. That was my life, and even though I didn't get the satisfaction that I wanted.
yeah.
I got satisfaction of other things out of it, and maybe for the coaching side, maybe it's not your kids. God forbid, it's not your kids that give you the joy. You give them the opportunities, but maybe it's something else in that realm of being around the sporting environment
Yeah.
that gives you that joy.
And I've come a lot more. I've got a lot more ease with, us racing. Not me. I've raced, recently, but the joy of being at the races with our kids
Yeah.
is a whole different aspect that I've never experienced, I guess, because we're just now getting into the amateur stuff really hard with our 5-year-old racing. I mean, our oldest is 7, so they're still very, very young for the sport.
Yeah.
And I think all this is coming from now that I'm watching them race and still being there all the time, but watching them race, I think you've heard more out of my mouth now about not riding than you've probably
Yeah.
ever heard. So
I've been digging on you for over a year about
and
that.
I've been totally bullheaded about
Yeah.
how it's going to be. And now that we got the toy hauler and we had the motorhome before, but now that we have the toy hauler, we're actually in it. Like, we're in the racing. Things are changing, and I think that Loretta's mentality is going to go away for me. Now, for my kids, it's going to be a different story because.
But how do you tell that story to them? Because, like, for you, it goes away. For them, you don't know. But how do you show them that this is the opportunity without pushing it on them? Because
it's too hard at their age. They don't understand any of it.
Yeah.
So, I think at some point, as they're starting to get older, that they'll see that eventually. I don't know, but that the opportunity is always going to be there. So, if they tell me that I want to be a professional motocross rider, if that ever comes out of their mouth, then they'll have that opportunity. I don't care what it takes, because I know that opportunity was taken from me. So I'm not gonna pull that away from them because they have somebody that can teach them. They have the assets to make it available. I'm not saying that we're rich by any means. It's a very expensive sport, but what I'm saying, I will make it happen. Whatever that takes. Whatever that aspect is to get them to that point. We'll do it. So I think that will full on give me they already give me the satisfaction just watching them ride. So
and let's fast forward. You have the ability to help them pursue. Do you have the ability to also look them in the eye and say, "Hey, maybe this isn't for you"?
you've seen me tell my oldest that.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what he wants, if this is what he wants to do, then I've looked at him straight in the eyes and be like, you got to work harder, and you got to ride that track, even if you don't want to. If it's a tough track, you got to ride it. That's just. And I said, if not, then we're gonna sell those bikes and we're gonna get you something that you want to ride, because the sport isn't your thing, and But he's still adamant that he wants to race dirt bikes, so. His bikes are still sitting there. He still has the opportunity. His bikes go with us, even if they don't come out of the trailer. Well, they come out, but they sit under the canopy the whole time. So technically, that opportunity is still there. So I'm a man of my word, and if he decides he wants to race, or if he doesn't want to race, I don't care. I told him, like, I don't care if you want to race, and if you just want to go and watch your brother race, that's fine. But they're here, but we're not going to keep the setup that you have if this isn't something you want to do. I don't care. But he's still on the edge, so I'm not going to take that opportunity from him. So I can easily look him in the eye and say it's not your thing, and let's find something else, because I'm already doing that with him. So yeah, I think, I don't know. We'll see what the future holds and how it comes from here. But
I only say that because I didn't do it with my own daughter, because she went from one thing that she loved to the second thing she loved. But I did it with athletes that I coached, that they had a dream of one thing, they had a dream of another, and I had to have that conversation of, which one do you really love?
Yeah.
And let's pursue this. And sitting in an office with someone that you're supposed to be like, yeah, I want you on my team, and then telling him, actually, you should chase B instead of A. And so I only say that because I didn't get the opportunity to have those conversations with my daughter because of the lifestyle she chose. So I had to have those with athletes that I mentored.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, as a dad, like, this is your passion.
Yeah, of course you want them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest thing that we're gonna face, we haven't faced it yet. I mean, slowly, but is we got one that is head over heels for riding, and we got one that we don't know yet. We all think, you included, think that he's going to be the rider. And maybe health issues might come part of that now, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
But then we got one that doesn't know what he wants to do. So if one decides that he wants to pursue baseball, professionally, but we got one that wants to pursue riding his whole life, that might become a conflict. I don't. Yeah. But they're kids. We don't know what they want to do. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, Brianna, she played golf, she played tennis, and ironically, not because she's my daughter, she was actually really good at golf and tennis, but she loved gymnastics and horses. And well, she's 20 now, and horses rule the world, and she works in them. So even though that's the world I was in, and racing, like, to this day, my 20-year-old daughter will call me and talk to me about what's going on in the racing world, and I saw this hauler, and I saw these things going on, and what's happening here, and excuse me. And so she loves racing, but her life is this. So that's why I ask as a dad who has 3 kids who are so young, in kind of that, I mean, we see Lake, and he's the baby, and you see him, dude, if he could get on right now, he'd get on right now.
Yeah. And he's gun shy because of the power.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out how to break that yet, but they're all gung ho about watching Supercross with me, and so it's all up in the air, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions that I can't answer, and how I'm going to handle it, or when the time comes, I guess we'll cross that bridge and we'll go from there. But we've done a lot of talking about me.
That's fine. We're good tonight. I want to finish with this. I want to finish with, racing is something that you and I both love.
Yeah.
And it's not just motocross. It's supercross. It's motorcycles. it's the, like you said, it's the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, there is no guaranteed trophy. There is no, it's you versus that obstacle.
Yeah.
What has racing taught you that you carry on to today?
I think it's the drive. In racing, it's not a team sport. I've never been a team person. You know, I own my business that I operate by myself. I'm not a people person, even though we sit here and talk to people, but the drive of racing, just, you know, the drive to better yourself, the drive to, I think racing alone itself has, when I was at that standpoint, or at that point in my life where I wanted to go to Loretta's and I wanted to push and push and push, and then my kids come along, and I think the drive that I wanted to do that, so I pushed towards it, and I moved down here after I met you and Michelle, and I guess we'll get into that at a different night too. But then I started this business mainly because of you guys, and but it's that drive, and that it's just that constant pushing, I guess, has always just been there. And though it's competitive, it's not. I don't know. I try to keep the competitiveness out of the everyday life, but you still have the mentality of push harder, or, well, you achieve this, what can you achieve now? Or it's like getting fifth place when you know you can do first. But and I almost look at the whole life, the whole business, the whole everything is, I'm not in first, so can I take my fifth place and make it a first place? And that's the mentality, the riding, and just being a decent human. Racing teaches you that. I mean, and that's part of the overall motocross mentality, and the atmosphere is this, the being at most and we've said over and over again, most of the motocross community is a very tight niche. You know, everybody will help anybody, and I think my business is a lot of that, and I think that's just the one mentality I've always stuck with me is, you know, if you're just a decent human, then the good things will keep coming. We face the major hurdles all the time, but it's just like racing. You know, you're going to come to a hurdle, and you got to overcome it somehow. So I think that's the one thing that'll stick with me the most, and probably not going anywhere.
Well, guys, I'm going to finish with a little bit of a monologue. I'm going to, first of all, thank our sponsors, DBS. Want to thank them. If you need fabrication or handyman services, reach out to DBS. And also, I'm going to thank Michelle and Trey Real Estate. Yes, I am Trey, but my wife is the bomb when it comes to real estate, any real estate services, commercial, residential, rental. But I'm going to finish with a quick monologue. So tonight, we were going to talk about how Derek and I met, what racing means for each of us, and who we are. But as we got into it, this is where the flexibility comes in. We're going to talk about me the next off weekend, because I think it was awesome to hear about someone's passion about a sport that has meant so much, taken so much, and given so much back. And I know it's weird to say that something can take away something and also give in the same vein, but
and you still keep doing it,
and you love it.
Yeah,
and you love it.
The passion has never left.
So we're gonna halt tonight on, actually probably the title of this episode is going to be is "Who the hell are you, Derek?" or "Derek, who the hell are you?" or something of that nature. But it's going to be, episode 4 was about learning who Derek was and why we're doing this. There's a passion for the racing. There's a passion for the sport. There's a passion for the push, because you don't get injured and come back to something unless you really love it. I don't care what sport. Go follow hockey. Go follow football. Go follow, I don't care, bowling. I don't care. Whatever you want to follow, go follow it. And the next time we have an off weekend, we'll dive into my story, which is far less exciting because my racing career is a lot less. I come from other sports, but those sports are all tied around racing.
Yeah.
So tonight, I want to thank Derac for your candidness. I want to thank you all for joining us. We're sorry we're 2 days late, and but guess what? Life happens, and we appreciate that everybody understands that life happens. And we will see you next Monday for a recap of as Arizona, Glendale, and any other racing that may have happened in that weekend. And we look forward to catching up with you. If you need us, check us on Facebook, Beyond the Curve Facebook, MX Podcast on Podbeam, Beyond the Curve MX Podcast on Facebook. We're here. Reach out to each of us personal. Derek Schaefer, Trey Heath. You can find us both personally. We will answer your comments. If you hate us, tell us why. We'd love to change. If you don't like my shorts, tell me. I'll wear something different. If you don't like Derek's shirt, guess what? It's okay. But thank you all very much. Derek, any last comments?
No, just thank everybody for coming and listening to my riding story anyway. And we hope you guys keep tuning in.
I like it. Derek, you know what we're going to do now? We're going to finish up. We're going to shut this down. And you and I are going to sit and have a cold beer. Fuzzy, we love you.
Have a good night.
Good night.